Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Land Down Under Hangouts short read for, I think it's this month. This is a monthly thing. I'm so sorry. My brain is not with it. This time we read Mooncakes. It is a graphic novel by Wendy
Suzanne Walker and Wendy Sue, yeah.
Yeah, and Suzanne Walker. I'm going to start off because I had to do the introduction. I really enjoyed it. It was a cute story. I felt like I wanted to know more about the world, but it was a cute little read and I enjoyed it. Karina?
Thanks. Yep, I read this morning in about half an hour. Maybe it was slightly longer than that. I don't know. And yeah, it was very cute. I like lots of aspects of it. But yeah, it's YA. It lacked a little bit of depth for me, but I did enjoy it.
Mel?
Yeah, I'd probably ditto exactly what Karina said. Enjoyed it. It was sweet. It was lovely. Probably lacked a bit of depth, but that's okay. It had lots of good representation and all of those bits and pieces, so that was nice.
Yeah.
Matt, what do you think?
Do I do the little ditto dots as well? Like, for under everyone? That's basically my thoughts too. I only had one issue really, and that was just more with the art style, which didn't particularly work for me. But otherwise, it was fun. It was fast. It was cute. A nice little story. And again, yeah, I think I'd like to know a bit more about the world. I feel there's more storytelling opportunity to be had there.
Elizabeth?
Yeah, mostly ditto to what everyone else said. Very charming, very seasonal, very, not particularly deep. I had a quibble with the ending. I feel like it didn't quite stick, but otherwise enjoyed it a lot.
And Kirsten, lucky last.
I'm going to be boring and say pretty much the same thing. Yeah, I enjoyed it. I read it pretty quickly. I did like the art style, actually. I didn't have an issue with that.
Yeah.
I liked the romance. But yeah, I don't think we're the target audience. I think it's definitely on the younger side of YA. But yeah, I enjoyed it. It was fun and cute. This is probably going to be short.
I
question it being YA. I'd actually say it was young teens, like 13-year-olds.
Well, that's the issue with the YA label in itself, really, is it covers a way too broader range.
Yeah, because YA covers everything that's from like 14 through to 18 or something. Or 17. Like, it's a really broad range, and like something that a 13-14-year-old would read is not the same sort of thing that a like 16-17-year-old would read. Even though they're very close in age, you do a lot of development in that time where you're learning a lot more about yourself and the world. So I can understand why YA is a very difficult but very broad banner. And yes, I would agree that I would like to see something called young teen rather than YA, because it's not. There is
a category called teens, definitely not. Kirsten, that's a good question for you. Is there together? Does it? Like, that's the thing. Like,
I suppose it depends on where you go. I mean, this was shelved in YA at my.
Yeah, same as you.
Yeah,
I'm sure it was
library
shelved in
has
YA.
YA.
Oh, yours has got YA.
YA.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure mine was listed on the system as YA. But I don't think.
Which then we have books like in our primary school library that are marked as YA for the grade 6s to borrow. So like, when you're covering everything from like grade 6 to 18-year-olds, that's a really big.
That's a bit broad.
Yeah.
And yes, I think there is like some libraries do have a teen section, but I don't think books are specifically labeled as teen. Like, they're either sold as like children's picture books, children's books, young adult books. I don't think there's really anything in between.
Middle grade.
Oh, middle grade, yeah. But like there's not really something for that young teen or teen sort of like 12 to 15-year-old sort of pool of kids. But that's getting really off topic.
No, it's on topic, just not about the book.
Yeah.
Tangentially on topic.
So when I finished and I went and marked it as read on Goodreads, I thought I'd have a flick through what other people have reviewed it as. And there was one girl who gave it a pretty average review, but she said that she was confused as to why the book was called Mooncakes. Are you stupid or something?
Yeah, how stupid do you have to be?
Would you like us to spell it out for you? And someone pointed out to her and she did say, okay, admittedly, I didn't know that was a cultural thing, but it is in the book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And literally talk about them.
Literally happens in the book. There's pictures of them making mooncakes in the book.
Maybe
So I just realized I haven't actually put it on as read on Goodreads, and I need to get to my book limit for the year, so I need to add everything I read.
I did it. I did it. I got my 12.
Sorry,
Matt, I'd really be interested to hear what you didn't like about the art style.
Yes.
Okay, I'll do that as soon as I get back from the crying out boy.
Okay, that's fine.
Let's do the ending then, because Elizabeth mentioned a problem with that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I was just going to say I wasn't particularly sold on the ending about Nova going away for her apprenticeship, which I mean, yeah, it was fine and everything, but like I felt like it wasn't a true problem because she was capable and independent, and it was just her mum pushing for things that have always been the way they've been, rather than it actually being a problem that she's, being too dependent on her nanas or whatever. So when it came up like that, I was just like, well, fine, but like I feel like you're kind of undermining her a bit there. Like,
I felt like it was she was pushed into it.
Like,
yeah.
No one sort of said to her, well, you don't have to go. Like, we didn't mean that you had to go. Like, everyone was like, oh, great, you want to go? You should definitely go. Go. You should go. Rather than being like, well, actually, you did this really amazing thing and you can stay if you want to. Obviously, if you want to go and explore the world, you feel free, but also like, don't feel like you have to go. Like, you did this really amazing craft thing and you should feel proud of that. You've done great things. And I feel like that was kind of pushed under the rug a bit. They kind of just were like, yeah, just go. You do that.
And I mean, she had help, sure, but like one part of it was being like part of the community and everything, and she had that down. Like, so
I wondered whether this was a thing that I didn't know about, because is this a common trope for witch things? Because I remember it from Kiki's delivery service, and that was what it made me think of, was when Kiki had to leave home because you can't, once you're a grown-up witch, you can't stay in the same place. And I was like, is this a thing? I thought that was just a plot point in that movie, but maybe it's a thing I just didn't know about. That's always a thing with witches, of having to move and go away to be, I don't know.
I mean, I don't feel like it always is, but it's clearly like inspired by Kiki there, I think.
I think it has definitely been influenced by it. And I think there's generally a consensus about leaving home for education sort of thing. And I think it ties into that, not necessarily the witching thing, although I think that is a very common thing, but specifically the leaving home to go get educated, not being educated by your family sort of thing is frowned upon.
And I feel like that's also really tapping into the YA aspects, that it's not just a common trope in terms of witches, but like YA stories in general that revolve around education of any kind.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it's also like it's much more common in other cultures than here. Like in America, most people move away from their parents to go to college and stay at college, whereas that's not really a thing here. Like I lived at my parents' house all the way through university, and it's probably more common for most people to do that when they have the chance to,
Yeah, ditto. I did that as well. Like I stayed home for all of my years.
And like it's like that cultural thing too. Like Australia doesn't really have that idea of like leaving home and going and staying. Like there's no college experience like, you know, that you have in the US where you go and live in the place you're going to study. And I guess there's some of that in the UK as well with a lot of boarding schools and that kind of thing, but you don't really have that here.
No.
Yeah, there's definitely, I mean, it does happen, but I wouldn't say it's the norm.
Yeah. No.
I think that part of that might be just the fact that we're so spread out. There's not sort of, you know, you can't just go to the city over or something on those lines. It's very far away to go to the next city sort of thing.
And even like going overseas, like it's a long way to get to anywhere that's not like New Zealand.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, my parents were not happy when I left to go to Japan, that was for sure. Oh dear. But anyway.
Yeah, that was my key issue with the ending, is that I wasn't sold on it, and I felt like it undermined the character.
I felt like it sort of it was a point that could have been made, but I think that, like we've said, it's an American story. Or is it Canadian? I think it was American. It was an American story, and therefore this is the thing that's done when you are getting your education. And so that was sort of the why of it. And so therefore it had to happen. Whereas like for us, I think like we're more accepting of the idea of it's perfectly fine to just stay home and get your education. And she was not suffering from her education. She was doing perfectly fine. She was not suffering from her confidence being built up under that circumstance. In fact, if anything, she was flourishing. I didn't feel in any way even that, I can't even remember her name, but the girlfriend woofed when she turned up.
Tam.
Thank you. Tam, when they turned up, were it was a welcome thing, but it wasn't like, oh, this changed her personality in any way either. It was just a reconnecting and, oh, we get to finally be together. It wasn't, there wasn't even any particular romancing on that side of things. It was just like, you're here, wonderful, I'm great, we're in love. And that was lovely and I enjoyed it, but it was good because she was already set. She was fine. The story, and it was their story really more than it was her story in that respects.
One of the things that I liked on that note is that the romance was not the point of conflict. And because I really hate that trope in romance where it's like the whole point of conflict is that the two main characters didn't communicate properly with each other and it caused some kind of misunderstanding or some kind of falling out, and then that's the main source of conflict in the story. And I'm like, oh, I hate that when that happens. I love it when there can be romance in the story, but the romance is not centered around, are they going to break up or are they going to get back together after they break up and all of that. And it was just nice to have a romance where, you know, you were like, oh yay, they got together, and then they were happy together and they had to deal with other shit, but they were happy together.
Yeah.
And also
the stuff that happened was not, the stuff that happened wasn't their relationship breaking down or them not communicating. It was the external stuff around their relationship, and I feel like those external things in the end only made their relationship stronger.
I think the other thing too is that it was good that their relationship was it was a point that happened in the story, but it wasn't also something that fixed either of them or anything on those lines. It was just there and they were good together, but it didn't like, oh, but this relationship made me stronger or anything like that. It was just, this is great. Why did I drink so much vodka before I started drinking?
Two questions that I wasn't quite sure of in the story. One was how much time had passed between when they had known each other in the past to when Tam returned. I wasn't sure if it was like a year or two or if it was like 5 years. I couldn't quite place.
They seemed like they were smaller children.
I think that they were in middle school together and Tam came back when they were 19.
Yeah.
Somewhere around that, yeah.
Well, I think it said something about the other girl.
Because then it says that they became friends, and that Nova and can't think of the other girl's name became friends in high school, which to me implied that Nova and Tam had been friends in middle school.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely. And also the pictures implied the sort of that age range, I thought.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tatiana was the other
That's
girl.
right.
Thank you.
Yes, that's what they were calling her. Thank you. I'm like rummaging through the book, like, where is she? What's her name?
enough for her name to stick in my head.
There's a
Yeah,
Tam
they-
and a Tat.
Yeah.
A Tat. They referred
That
to
was
her as
a bit
Tat
confusing.
mostly.
That was another thing I liked, because I was expecting her to I was expecting there to be conflict between them,
Yeah.
between Tatiana and Tam. Like, I was expecting like Tatiana to be like jealous of their relationship, even not necessarily that she was romantically interested, but just suspicious
You're
and jealous,
spending all your
especially
time
because
with
she
this
was
person.
non-magic, and then with the wolf thing, and I was like, oh, you know, here we go.
And she became
when that
the
didn't
best
happen, I was
friend
really happy.
after the previous friend kind of thing as well.
Yeah, like, yeah, I felt a bit like that too, like that there was going to be some sort of point of conflict that was going to like put a wedge between Tatiana and Nova, because, you know, either Tatiana was jealous because Nova was spending all this time with Tam trying to work out this demon thing, or like it was going to be some sort of point of conflict, and it just wasn't. Everyone was like all with one another, and I mean, it was just nice. It was just a nice story. Everything was nice.
One of the things that I like too was also that not only is Tatiana like not a point of conflict, but she's a really steadfast friend. She's like, you need help? Sure, I'm absolutely there, no matter what. So that was really nice.
In fact, it was sort of emphasised that she was sort of a science person of some kind. And I would have liked to explore that angle a little bit more. Like, if there's a second book, I would love it if they explored that angle in particular. It would have been an interesting thing to look at.
I want to throw my Thor meme in there again. It's like, where I come from, science and magic are the same thing.
So now that you're back, Matt, do you want to discuss the issues that you had with the art?
Well, hang on. I have my second question, and then I'll get to the art. So the second question was, because if I recall, they don't explicitly mention it at any time, is whether Nova's parents were dead and turning up as ghosts, or if they were alive but remote and they were kind of just like astral projected.
That wasn't
They were
just me.
They were ghosts.
They were ghosts.
Yeah,
By the end, I was sure they were ghosts, but I agree, Matt. I was confused at first as well, and going, "Are they dead?
Are they just on the other side of the world, and they're like busy and they can be here like on Zoom kind of thing, you know, magic Zoom?"
I think it was the ending of them being like, you know what, you need to make your own decisions, that made me like very confident that they were ghosts rather than remote. Because if they were remote, I think they would have still been like, let's give you advice and that sort of stuff. But by being dead, I feel like they were like, it's not really our place to sort of say anything right now. In fact, it's kind of weird we're here at all.
I liked that they made that decision at the end, like, this is actually not good for you that we keep showing up. Maybe we will back off. And I was like, well, that's good that you're recognizing that, because she was like super upset. You know, she's like, I'm happy to see you, but this just, you know, makes things worse, kind of, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you can infer that they're dead because they're talking about how like the last year has been really hard for Nova, and that's why it's because her parents died.
Yeah.
So
I
was just worried that I was inferring the wrong thing. I guess
it makes sense.
Because I had the same debate, because I was sort of like, you could infer that she was struggling because they were away.
But then, if that was the case, why wouldn't they have taken her with them? And especially if she needed to go elsewhere to do her apprenticeship, that would have fit in nicely.
It would have, I know. And like I said, I got to the right place in the end. I was just sort of having a debate while I was reading it as to which way it was supposed to go.
You know, they're off doing their own thing and like doing like magic special forces work, and it's like, it's too dangerous for you to be with us, so we need to send you away for protection.
I hate that trope too. That trope pisses me off.
Well, it would have also made sense with her lack of confidence issues that they were trying to imply that she had, which I didn't really notice. It's just that she didn't want to leave the hometown. I didn't really notice a lack of confidence outside of that.
Yeah,
and that's like,
I feel like that was just purely her parents' baggage.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I was sort of like, aside from that, I could have argued either way. But then, yeah, I was pretty sure by the end that they were dead. But I was open for either option until the end.
Yeah, you see, it's like, that's what I felt like. It was just purely her parents' baggage. So when she's like, oh, actually, I'm going to go away for that apprenticeship after all, I'm like, ugh.
Yeah.
I mean, sure, like if she wanted to just go away on the apprenticeship just to be closer to Tam, sure, I'll get on board with that. But that's not the way it was framed.
No, and I agree. I would have preferred if it was framed that way rather than just, oh, well, I'll fulfill my parents' wishes.
Yeah, I would have
expectations.
I was really hoping that they were like at that very end point there that Tam was going to be like, I actually really want to go be with my mother, but I don't want to leave you. And that was going to be the turning point for Nova to be like, well, actually, I don't want to leave you either. And maybe learning from someone else would be good for me. You know, that kind of like, not so much her being like, I've decided that I want to leave kind of thing. Like,
yeah,
like I would have preferred Nova sort of having like Tam, like, I think I want to go spend time with my mum and get to know my mum again kind of thing. And that for being part of the push for Nova rather than her parents' baggage.
Yeah.
See, I think maybe one of the reasons it was framed that way was so like if it was like her deciding that she wanted to go on an apprenticeship to be close to Tam, it might smack a bit of like changing all your life just for someone else. But the way it's framed at the moment, it's still that anyway.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like she's changing her whole entire life for her parents. That either they're dead or remoting in. Either way, like she doesn't seem to be super close with them compared to how she is with her grandmothers. So like framing it in a way where she's like, it feels like she's been guilt tripped into it from her parents kind of thing, rather than going to
be with my girlfriend,
going to support her life partner.
I was going to say, I can't say girlfriend. I'm like, what do I say when it's a they? I don't know. Life partner. Good call, Naomi.
Well, that's a bit premature. We don't know if they're going to be together for life.
You could just say partner.
Yeah.
Like to go and be with her partner rather than going because of her parents' baggage. Like I feel like it would have been a nicer way to frame it. Like
I agree.
But either way, she is going due to external pressures. It wasn't framed in a way where I felt like it was a decision that she made just for her.
I think that's the thing too. Like it was the whole thing was great in that it was trying to really bring in lots of representation, bust tropes, all of those sorts of things, which was fantastic. But that one point is where they sort of missed the mark, I feel like.
And it kind of does undermine the rest of it a little bit.
I also would really like to know more about Nova's cousin. The whole bird thing was interesting.
The pigeon?
It doesn't want to talk about it.
Felt like that was kind of out of nowhere.
Yeah, I was just like, this is out of nowhere with no explanation.
I want to know more about the magic system in general, like how the witching works, how werewolves work, how the werewolves' magic work, how science interacts with the magic. Like, I really want there to be a spin-off, like a book that has that kind of information. I want it. I need it. Give it to me.
That's just such a fantasy nerd thing, though.
Yeah. That was like a really unexpected thing that I absolutely loved, was when she's like, I'm going to fucking magic my hearing aids.
Yes.
Bam.
Oh my God, the hearing aids bit was so freaking
That's so good.
Sorry, I might have enjoyed that she needed hearing aids a little bit.
I did think of you, Mel, reading that.
I was rather excited, and I was like, could you please shut up? Not really, but you know. I was like,
so was I, so was I, because there's a lot of content now that has queer and LGBT characters and everything in it, and so it's sort of, especially, you know, this genre, but to have a hearing impaired character on top of that as well, I was just so excited. And then for them to make it like, not like, you know, the main thing about her, but for it to be a useful thing for her as a witch as well, that was really exciting.
And when she takes them out when she's on the broom and she takes them out, she's like, it's just rushing wind.
2 points. As someone who's wearing hearing aids, it was fantastic. I hate talking on the phone bit. Jesus Christ, that is so true. And
maybe take my hearing aids out.
I have to take my hearing aids out to use them, or I have to link them up. And because I can't keep them permanently linked up, because that's just worse. It's just a pain. And because it was a landline in the store, it was just, it's just a pain. So yeah, phone calls are a nuisance. Second of all, her owning the hearing aids and choosing a color instead of something that's going to blend in. I was like, I feel you, honey. I feel you, honey, so much. Like, you own those hearing aids. They are a strength, not a weakness.
Also, I appreciate too that the color she picked matches the color of Dan's hair.
I did notice that.
And turning them down so she couldn't hear people talking about her.
Yes, little things like that, but also just like things like that they were, she would get tired and was ready to take them out. Like, there was just little touches that was just like, you hit the mark. Do you know someone who's got them? Are you wearing them? I don't know also what you are doing, but somehow you will know exactly what this is like.
I was wondering actually if the author might have been hearing impaired.
I went and looked. I couldn't tell. There was no information.
But when you said that, Mel, about the phone thing, there was a thing where I think Nova said, like, this must be really important because Tat was going to call me instead of text. Now, I initially thought it was just the teenager thing of like, I don't make calls, I send texts, so a call would be out of the ordinary. But then you've just given me perhaps additional context there of like, she knows that using the phone is a real shit. And so, like, I'm only going to call you if it's really important.
To be fair, when you're wearing hearing aids, it actually depends on what kind of device you're using. So when I'm using a landline, it is absolutely terrible because I have to take the hearing aids out and therefore I don't have an aid to help me with the hearing experience. However, with my phone, if I'm not linking them up, I can use the the speaker mode, so that it's speaking out loud, and with that in conjunction with my hearing aids is a much better experience. And so if I can't hook my hearing aids up or I don't want to, that's a better experience. So it does depend on what I'm using, but it is still better to text in general. Like, as much as there are times where I will do a phone call just because it's just going to be easier to communicate because I've got too much that text is going to be difficult and things on those lines. But under those circumstances, I'm usually going, okay, well, I can pop my AirPods in and I'll be fine, sort of thing. But the hearing aids do hook up to my phone, but they do not work because they are also hearing what's around me as opposed to my AirPods, which block what's around me while I'm hearing what's on my phone. It's a very different experience. And so I prefer the AirPods if I'm on the phone. This is why I had to have a talk to Nye about the fact that assistively, like as an assistive device, my AirPods are one of my assistive devices. They're not just my headphones for me. They are an assistive device that I use like my hearing aids are.
Yeah.
Which is why I now have a separate set for my computer and my phone.
So after a 60-second search through her Twitter, I don't think that she's got hearing impairment or she doesn't wear hearing aids that I can tell, but she does
Suzanne Walker.
This is Suzanne Walker, sorry. Writes for, has written on Belonging, a personal narrative of disability, and talks about, has spoken at conventions about disability representation in sci-fi and fantasy.
That's what I found as well. I couldn't find definitive information either direction on her, and by looking at her pictures, I couldn't tell because of the way she wears her hair.
I couldn't see them in any, I can see her ears in some of the pictures, but I can't see behind her ears, so I don't know if it's just that I can't see the hearing aids.
Also, fit photos don't necessarily mean anything either, because she could do a photo shoot without the hearing aids.
Yes, but she does also have just general, there's a photo of her at the gym with some of her friends doing something. And I feel like if she wore hearing aids, she'd probably be wearing them at that stage. And it doesn't appear like she is.
Either way, she's obviously got.
But yes, I feel like if she's not, then she's close to someone who is.
Is close to someone who is and generally cares about representation of disability. I also particularly liked the fact that they didn't have Nova be someone who is severely hearing impaired. So often when that sort of representation is done, they usually go the hard side to that, when actually a good portion of the population actually has moderate hearing disability, and and that is, I find that's actually sometimes worse. When you've got a particularly strong deficit when it comes to hearing, that tends to be something that's got a lot of support, a lot of representation. Well, I wouldn't say a lot of representation, but it has representation behind it. There's a community that's behind it. It's very obvious, things on those lines. It's when you live in the cuspy area that's particularly difficult. And so having someone who's specifically representing what I would consider to be the cusp is really nice.
Xander is calling again, so I'm going to talk about the artwork before I go away again. And I mean, I don't want to play it up too much. It's purely my own personal thing. I don't really have an issue with the artwork per se, but I think I've said this before. Really simplistic art styles like this just don't work for me, and I find it harder to sort of get into a graphic novel if the art style is that kind. Like, love it on like a happy birthday, it's tea time card, for example, but it doesn't work for me as a storytelling thing as well. And I think it suits the story, and I think it's appropriate for the you know, that demographic for the story, but it just I as soon as I saw it, I'm like, oh, okay, I'm going to have to kind of push myself through this a little bit because it just doesn't always work for me.
So it sort of fits in the same category of this is not necessarily your demographic, therefore the art style's not necessarily for you. Correct.
Yeah, I'm not saying I have, like, I thought the art was bad or anything like that. It's just that style, I hit a wall automatically. Yeah.
We've read graphic novels before where I've been like, I did not love this art style, and I'm very glad I finished and do not need to read that again.
Yeah.
Because I did not enjoy it and I do not want to see it anymore.
Yeah.
But that's, yeah.
I'll say one last thing before I run, and then I'll come back and see. Even though they were not the main characters, they were secondary characters, I think my favorite characters were the two grandmas.
Yes. Oh my God, yes.
Really awesome.
Did anyone else
It's
get
so cool.
practical magic vibes?
Yes. If they hadn't been sisters.
Yeah.
No, they were cool.
I agree.
Right,
they were
back
definitely cool. I think that the art style was, I suppose to me it was just sort of a neutral thing. Like I went in not really sure, and then I was just sort of like, it's fine. It didn't wow me, but it didn't disappoint me either.
I feel like it was quite well in keeping with the tone of the piece.
Agreed.
It reminded me a bit of Pumpkinheads, a little actually. So there's maybe I have an association now with that kind of October vibe.
The funny thing is, I suppose I didn't really particularly enjoy the art style of Pumpkinheads. It was fine, but it didn't really do anything for me. I like this one a little bit better, but might be a bit of a much of the muchness thing, not really worth. I don't know. Maybe it was more the story colouring me there. I didn't enjoy the story of Pumpkinheads as much.
Maybe. Maybe it's just me. But I felt like the colouring at least was quite similar. Like the palette.
Yeah, I would agree on that. Yeah. Oh my God, why did I drink vodka?
She says drinking more vodka.
It's the only time to say it. And I have to finish it.
Was there anything else that we wanted to talk about?
Just a quick thing on the parents. The reason I would lean more towards Dad and less towards Way is the mother says it's hard when we can't be there for her. Maybe it was too soon for us to start visiting. Which makes me lean to more, like, while it isn't explicitly said, dead or alive, if they were alive, it wouldn't be they would be Zoom calling, phone calling, texting, emailing all the time.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I 100% agree. They're definitely dead. It was just more of a, I wasn't sure ambiguous. At the first. Yeah.
Oh no, I'm not saying that it was obvious. I'm just saying that one particular line makes me lean more towards the fact that dead or in another plane or something, because like
Which
I
I
don't know
kind of
enough
sentient.
about the magic system to know if they're just in another realm or something and can only talk to us in that sort of ghostly form, rather than not being dead as such, but also not being able to physically visit. Which is why I want to know more about the magic system. Give it to me.
I need to start keeping a tally of how many books I hear you say that for.
Do you think that that's one of the problems of us being sci-fi fantasy readers, is we're so used to a series, we're used to the filling in.
I'm used to having like either nothing at all and it's a junk food trash book, or all of the information about every single part of the magic system and I know exactly how it works. If I lived there, I could definitely be a witch.
But also
There
just
should be
that
no in between.
Just that expectation that there'll be more than one book. Like we get so when it's a standalone.
Yeah, that's true.
But I don't necessarily want another book. I just want like a glossary of how stuff works. Like I don't necessarily want another book. Well, another book would be cool. I just want like a glossary of how the magic works.
Look, give me another book about the nanas. Come on.
About the nanas, about Tatiana like doing science investigate about magic. Like that
Yes,
would be a
I
cool
would
book.
love another book which was just a few short stories of those different characters. So the cousin, the nanas, and Tatiana with her science linking somehow with magic or something along those lines
That
would be
cool,
brilliant.
actually.
Actually, Tatiana's story reminds me a little bit of that one that we both read, Succulent and Spells, I think it was, from New Zealand.
Yeah. Yep. Spells and succulents.
Something along those lines.
Spells.
But yeah, like that
NBC
science
Buchanan,
and magic link. I was like, yeah, I want something like that, but in this world with Tatiana and her two new friends who happen to be dating. But you know what it's like being a third wheel, but it's okay because third wheeling is normal and we don't need to treat it like it is in fiction all the time where it's a problem. It's just fine because you can be friends with both of them.
It's fine that you're a group of 3 people who enjoy just spending time together and living together, and not all of you are dating one another. It's fine.
But how would that work?
And I'm not trying to do anything in my head where I'm matching Tatiana up with the cousin at all. Shut up, Melanie, in her head, which is trying to make everybody happy. Anyway, but yeah. All right, guys, are we good? Anything else?
I think we're good. I was going to buy that one.
All right.
Awesome.
Thank you, everybody, for watching. Next time we are talking about The Relentless Moon by Mary Robert Cowell, which is going to be awesome, and it's Matt's pick, if you couldn't tell. We will see you then. Bye. Oh, wait, no, not that button.